Now, here is the strange thing. As you mentioned, first of all, down the road, there is an entire luxury hotel that we, the taxpayer, are paying to be full of migrants. So why can't some of those migrants go in these units, most of which are empty? And why, too, are there lots of luxury cars all around this estate? Well, I asked that question of the council, and here's what they said. They said, these days, just because you can afford a luxury car doesn't mean you're not homeless.
Isabel Oakeshott has established herself as a fearless journalist, unafraid to reveal the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. She is one of those rare individuals who speaks out boldly while others choose to remain silent. This was particularly evident when Angela Rayner was confronted with the challenging question of providing migrants with brand new homes. 5 out of 7 migrants received housing that most Britons can only dream of. Does that seem fair? Rayner, caught off guard, struggled to respond, and her silence sent shockwaves across the nation. For someone in her position, the inability to provide a clear answer was a significant setback.
I actually found that quite distressing to listen to it again. When I was interviewing her, it was a struggle not to kind of reach out and comfort her, not to interrupt her, but I really wanted viewers to see how unbelievably upset she is, naturally and understandably, about the way she was treated. And what I observed of her when I was in Leeds with her for the afternoon was that she is a quiet pillar of the community. Here's the irony. You know, this is a woman who's being made to do some kind of anti-social behaviour course. She's a bit confused as to whether it's an anti-racist or anti-social behaviour thing, but it's some kind of way of getting rid of so-called cases without actually going through the formalities of court.
Ordinary people are understandably bewildered by how the situation has deteriorated to such a catastrophic level. Families have been on waiting lists for years, desperately seeking homes, while essential services teeter on the brink of collapse, leading to widespread anger and despair. Meanwhile, the leaders of the Labour Party appear to be preoccupied with their political manoeuvring, seemingly aware that their policies fail to address the urgent issues at hand. Isabel Oakeshott's incisive analysis highlights that the United Kingdom requires more than just hollow promises. It needs genuine leadership that listens to and comprehends the needs of its citizens. The disconnect between the Labour Party's ideals and the actual needs of society continues to widen, and Isabel remains steadfast in holding them accountable for their shortcomings.
Zero chance of turning this around. Zero. Because there was a glaring omission in all of that, which is immigration.
Yeah.
It's like number one thing that exercises Labour voters and many others besides.
And indeed Reform UK voters who are doing better than Labour in the polls at the moment.
How could he have left that off? You know, it is so astonishingly stupid that you begin to think, is there something else at work here? Is someone actually plotting to make this party, this leadership, this particular Prime Minister fail?
Isabel Oakeshott did not hold back when she labelled Angela Rayner's ideas as absurd. During the interview, she expressed her outrage, questioning how the government could prioritise the interests of migrants over those of British citizens in distress. Rayner's attempts to justify the Labour Party's stance only highlighted her disconnection from reality, which was evident. The issue lay not just in her words, but also in a profound misunderstanding of the struggles people are facing. For Isabel, this is more than a personal matter, it's a fight to hold leaders accountable for their choices. When Rayner attempted to dismiss the criticism, Isabel intensified her efforts, stressing that Labour's approach alienates the very people they claim to represent. Oakeshott's candidness eliminated any excuses, leaving Rayner with no way to evade the tough and pressing questions that demand immediate answers.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is with us in the studio this morning. Welcome to you. What's the latest information that the government has? Can you confirm that Assad is gone? Well, we don't know. The situation on the ground is fast moving at the moment. If the Assad regime has fallen, then we welcome that news. What we want to see is a political solution along the lines of what the UN resolution is, and we're working with our allies.
Are you sure, though, if this rebel group does take charge, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, they have connections and roots with groups like Al-Qaeda. Are you sure as a government they'd be a better option than the Assad regime?
Well, again, working with allies on the UN resolution, we've got to have a government in Syria, a political solution that protects civilians and infrastructure, because as we've seen with the Assad regime, it has been unstable. We want to see that stability, and we'll work towards that with our allies.
The conflict between Angela Rayner and Andrew Neil has sparked discussion for all the wrong reasons, igniting a wave of emotions. When Neil questioned her about Labour's housing strategy, she stumbled as if caught in a trap, unable to provide a single clear answer. Her vague responses and evident lack of confidence suggested that she was not only unprepared, but completely at a loss. Critics have likened her performance to that of a student under pressure who cannot defend themselves, and this comparison rings painfully true. How can one expect to bring about change if they can't articulate their own plans? For Isabel Oakeshott, this serves as further evidence that key figures in the Labour Party are ill-equipped for their roles and disconnected from the realities around them. Andrew Neil's probing only reinforced what Isabel has consistently argued. The public deserves clarity, not muddled answers and uncertainty. Rayner's misstep only intensified the scrutiny on Labour's leadership, making them appear more vulnerable to public criticism than ever before.
Bloody da. I mean, what the hell is that all about? All she's doing there, she's being drilled by the media advisors, the press office. Right, just say something about the UN resolution, and we're sticking to that, and we're working with allies. Very difficult, fast-moving situation. In other words, she didn't have the first clue what she was talking about.
However, Angela Rayner isn't the only focus of Isabel Oakeshott's scrutiny. She consistently holds Keir Starmer and the Labour government accountable, giving them no opportunity to evade criticism. Whether discussing housing, immigration, or the economy, Isabel remains steadfast. She passionately emphasises that while Labour's promises may sound appealing, they fall short in terms of actual implementation. These aren't merely words. They represent a call for justice that demands recognition and action.
2.5 million immigrants that are in Rachel Reeves' budget figures going to turn up. Where are they going to live?
Well, there's plenty of housing in the UK, but the houses, especially social
hang on. You can't, on the one hand, say we've got to build this 1.5 million houses and then say there's plenty of housing already.
There is plenty of housing, Trevor, already, but there's not enough for the people that desperately need it. So the homes, especially under our affordable homes programme, which is social and affordable housing, they will be there for people who desperately need them, local people. We've already outlined how we're going to support veterans and people who are fleeing domestic violence.
Okay.
Councils need homes for people that are on the waiting list. I've already announced changes to the right to buy, making sure they have
this doesn't quite make sense.
So that we can deliver the houses they desperately need.
Deputy Prime Minister, doesn't quite make sense. You start the interview by telling me that there's a housing crisis.
Oakeshott's professional approach distinguishes her from other journalists. She doesn't merely ask questions, she demands accountability, leaving no detail overlooked. When politicians evade uncomfortable truths, Isabel ensures that society cannot ignore the reality. This moment marked the beginning of her resolute stance against the increasing contradictions within the Labour Party, and she shows no signs of backing down. By markedly separating her department from the Labour Party, initially Angela Rayner appeared to be a breath of fresh air for Labour, embodying hope for change and renewed energy. Many believed she would be the courageous voice the party needed to make a real impact. Even Isabel Oakeshott herself was optimistic that Rayner could revitalise the party. However, things have shifted. Under Keir Starmer's leadership, Angela's influence has waned, and with each passing day, the prospects for meaningful change seem increasingly elusive.
When I remind you that you have said yourselves as a government, we're going to need 2.5 million migrants. Some of them, by the way, people are going to build the houses. Suddenly, there's a lot of housing. Where are these people going to go?
Well, Trevor, first of all, when you say about building as well, the previous government did use migrant labour far too much instead of actually building skills here in the UK. I've announced £140 million for new construction hubs so that we can train people here to deliver those housing. So I don't accept that we're going to bring migrants in for that. We've always said that actually we need to skill our own people up. But equally, we need to build the homes that people need.
Isabel wasn't the only one to notice this shift. Voters began to voice the troubling question: what happened to Angela Rayner, the leader we had been anticipating? The cracks in Labour's plans became increasingly hard to overlook. This changing government led many to wonder if Labour had lost its edge, and Isabel was quick to highlight the growing sense of disappointment. The UK is not merely facing challenges, it feels a profound sense of relief, as if someone has finally opened a window in a stuffy room. Many argue that under Labour's leadership, the situation in the country is deteriorating rapidly, fueling anger and discontent. Critics harshly contend that Labour's policies have resulted in a mountain of unfulfilled promises. From severe housing shortages to crippling economic stagnation, Isabel Oakeshott left no detail unexamined, drawing attention to glaring issues: rising homelessness, ineffective public services, and a government that appears unable to manage the crisis, leaving people feeling desperate and hopeless. What are your thoughts on this video? Share your opinions in the comments, and see you next time.